baby's here. I'm mom. This is Ezra Prince Snow. The love of my life. I can't believe how much we love him and just how perfect and wonderful he is. He's simply amazing. So I vlogged a little bit of my labor, but obviously I had other things in my mind, so I didn't record too much. So I wanted to go back and I wanted to record more talking about it because it's an experience that I want to remember forever, and some people have asked me about it, so I just want to give my personal experience. It was a pretty good experience overall, but before I go into it, I do want to say that every person is so different, and everyone's labor is different, everyone's body is different. And so I just want to explain how my labor was and maybe give some advice that I think worked for me. But everyone is different. Whatever you got to do to get the baby here is what you got to do. The important part is that the baby makes it safe in this world, and that's all that matters. The details don't matter. So whatever you got to do is okay, and don't beat yourself up if things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. There's definitely things that I wish that I did better, and I might make another video about things I wish I did different throughout pregnancy and like labor and delivery, because there are things that I do wish I did differently. It's Friday, so I'm 39 and 5, and good news, I was 3 centimeters dilated, which I was so worried that she was gonna say 0, and then I would have definitely cried. I mean, I cry like 5 times a day lately. So there's definitely some hormonal changes going on, so hopefully I will go into labor soon. Right now, Jonathan and I are stopping at Aldi's for a couple of things. Let's walk this baby out. Well, hello there, friends. I had an appointment that morning at 10:15, and I was 2 to 3 centimeters dilated, which was a fantastic news. I was so uncomfortable, I was upset, I just wanted to go into labor. And then while she was checking me, she asked if I wanted a membrane sweep, which is where they kind of like move their finger around while they're checking you, just to like, it can stimulate labor. And so she did that, and it was a little uncomfortable, but it really wasn't bad at all. She said that it's common to cramp like the rest of the day after having that done, and so I want to say I started cramping soon after, definitely maybe around noon. But I didn't know because, you know, I'd been cramping for days at that point and having some Braxton Hicks. And I really didn't feel like I was having Braxton Hicks. It was mostly just cramping. But I knew that the membrane sweep was causing cramping. So I didn't really think too much of it. Just went about my day. I went on a really long walk, which was nice. Maybe like a mile or a mile and a half. And I worked on making hairbrushes. I did dishes. It was a really productive day. There was a lot of things that I got done. And I had been cramping all day, but like I said, I didn't really think anything of it because she said I was going to be cramping. So I just did my thing. And then later in the evening, I was kind of relaxing, making hairbrushes, and I definitely started feeling more cramping. I really didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know how bad it was going to be. And I've heard some people say when you know, and that contractions are like 1,000 times period cramps. So I really didn't think that was what was happening, but I suspected it. So I had the TV on. I was watching some Vampire Diaries. And relaxing. And then maybe around, I think I want to say 11 p.m., I was like, okay, this has been pretty regular, like on, off cramping. Like, I think this is contractions. I think that things might be starting. But then I still didn't read too much into it because my mom said that she contracted for weeks before going into labor. And so I didn't want to get too excited. I don't know for sure, but I think that my labor might be starting. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I've been cramping all day, but now it feels like it's more regular, and it does feel like it's starting to happen like clockwork. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm not too sure yet, but I am also having back aches. So I'm sitting here relaxing with my heating pad, and I'm gonna have a snack, and I don't think I can sleep right now, so I'm just gonna sit up for a while and try to relax. Okay, now that I think that I'm in labor, I don't want to be. I wanted to go to labor for so long, literally like 3 weeks now, but now that I think it's happening, I'm scared and I don't want to. But I don't have a choice, so put on some Vampire Diaries and making mac and cheese and just relaxing with my heating pad. So don't know what I'm in for. Here we go. I was really hungry, so I made mac and cheese, and Jonathan and I just kind of hung out and I watched Vampire Diaries, and I had a heating pad on my back, which was really soothing, and I just sat in my rocking chair and just rocked. I just had a feeling that I wasn't gonna sleep that night. I wasn't really tired, I didn't feel like sleeping, and I was cramping so much, or I guess apparently contracting, that I just kind of knew that I wasn't gonna sleep. And then I want to say around midnight, I was like, okay, like I'm pretty sure this is labor, and I didn't know if that meant the baby was coming soon. I mean, some people labor for like 48 hours. Everybody is just so different. So I just kind of kept doing my thing, and then I realized that they were getting more intense, and I had known that I wanted to labor in the bath as much as possible. So I think around, I want to say 12:45, Jonathan drew me a bath. I'll see you soon, bye-bye. Sure you can understand that. It's almost 1 o'clock. I've just been sitting watching TV with my heating pad, and I haven't started timing my contractions yet, but I've been glancing at the clock, and I think they're about every 5 minutes apart. They're getting pretty bad, so I'm about to get in the bathtub and labor in there for a while. I'm so tired. I wish I would have taken a nap today. They're consistently 3 to 5 minutes apart, but I don't know how long that they've been that way, because I feel like I've been like in refusal, that I've been in labor like all day. I've just been thinking it was cramping, and so I just started timing them like 10 minutes ago, but I'm doing well. I just don't know when we should head to the hospital. Jonathan, we're gonna meet our baby soon. Are you so excited? Me too. I'm so scared though. Put in there for a while, just drink water and relaxed, put on the Bridgerton soundtrack on my phone, and then I used my my pregnancy app has like a contraction timer. So I think around 1 I think it was 1 o'clock when I started timing them, and they seemed really close, like 3 to 5 minutes, some even less than 3 minutes apart. And I was like, oh my gosh, like when did this happen? Like I didn't realize how close they had been together. I think I was just so distracted. I'm not gonna lie, I love Vampire Diaries so much that I was just like so focused on watching my show that I wasn't really paying attention. And like I said, it just felt like bad period cramps, and I mean not even really bad period cramps. I think that my period cramps are on the more painful side, so for me it just feels normal. So it just felt like I was cramping a bunch. I was in the tub and I was like, oh okay, they did say to come when it's been 3 to 5 minutes apart for an hour, and they've been like this for a while before I had started timing them. But I just really wanted to labor in the bath, and I was so comfortable. The last thing I wanted to do was go to the hospital. And so we just, Jonathan sat in a chair next to the bathtub, and I just sat in there, had my eyes shut, leaned back, listened to the Bridgerton soundtrack, and just kind of relaxed, breathed through them. They were getting worse at this point, but it felt really good to be in the bath, like really good. I definitely recommend people doing that, because that was really nice. And then I realized it had definitely been an hour, and some of them were like a minute 45 apart, and I was like, oh, okay, like I still did not want to go to the hospital. I really wanted to stay in the bath, but I was like, okay, like I don't want to risk it. This is my first, and like usually with your first, you're in labor for like 24 hours and pushing for 2 hours. But I've also seen first-time moms my age even slip out a baby just like nothing. So I knew that since I didn't know my body, I probably should be on the safe side. And so I think it was like, what time is it? I think I was in the bath maybe an hour and a half. So I think it was around 2:30, and some of my contractions were like a minute and a half apart. And I was like, okay, like we need to go. And so Jonathan helped me get out of the bath, and I focused on getting dressed, and I wanted to like brush my teeth and get comfortable. So Jonathan was loading the car and loading all of our stuff up, getting the last minute toothbrushes and stuff. And at this point it was getting pretty bad. Like I had to like take breaks while getting dressed, and it was getting more intense at this point. And so I think we left here a little after 2:30 to get to the hospital, and it's just 10 minutes away. So we got to the hospital. I think that this is it. We're headed to the hospital. It's almost 2:30, so we'll see what they say. My contractions seem to be about 1 to 3 minutes apart. And we did the valet parking and we got inside, and I'm not gonna lie, the check-in process was really not good. I'm not impressed. Like I think that also with it being the middle of the night, that might have made things worse because like people are tired and they're moving slower, but it was very slow. And so they did offer me a wheelchair, and I declined, but you know, I wanted to walk as much as possible because I knew that would help. So, you know, it felt like a long walk to get there. And then the whole check-in process took forever. Jonathan and I were standing at this desk filling out paperwork for so long, and I had to keep like pausing filling out paperwork and just like kind of like put my head down and shut my eyes like this because I was having terrible contractions, and like she was not even really like stopping or like slowing down or asking me if I need to sit or anything. She just kept going, and it was the middle of the night, so really like I was not upset. Like it's hard to work night shift, but she was definitely like in no rush, and she kept making mistakes. Like she'd be like, oh shoot, where did I put your ID? Or she's like, oh, did I already make a copy of your license? Like she kept making silly mistakes. But like I said, it was the middle of the night. I'm not upset, but it was hard because I was standing there and I had multiple contractions while trying to fill out this paperwork because it was taking so long. And so then after that, we sat down for a little bit, and then they came and got me for triage. It's 3:30 and I'm 5 centimeters dilated. I'm so happy.
Sorry guys, I look a little greasy.
And hooked me up to the monitor, and she let me sit on the monitor for maybe like 20 minutes, and it was obvious that I was in active labor because I had many contractions during that time. And then she checked my cervix, and I was 5. So I think at this point it was probably sometime after 3 at this point because the check-in took so long. So it was between 3 and 4 at this point. And then finally we got into our labor and delivery room right before 4. I think it was 3:50, and at this point it was getting bad, and I wanted to move, and she wanted me hooked up to the monitors, of course, but I definitely kept coming off the monitors because my body needed to move. Really weird positions too. All the positions that I planned on laboring in, like in the hospital bed, I didn't use any of those. I actually just like sat up kind of like this, like crisscross applesauce for a lot of them, and then my leg hanging off the bed, and I kind of just did my own thing. And the room was dark. Jonathan put on the Bridgerton soundtrack again, and he plugged in my we have little salt lamp night lights, you know, so we plugged those in. So it was super dark in the room, had my Bridgerton soundtrack going, and I was not talking at all. I could not talk to Jonathan. I was answering the nurse's questions, obviously, but like I just wanted to be left alone. And the nurse was great. Like some people might have not liked that, but I loved that she really just left me alone. And then at one point I like unhooked myself and went to the bathroom, and it felt like I like needed to like poop, and you know that can sometimes mean that you're about to start pushing, and I felt so much pressure down there. And I came back in, and it was getting bad at this point. It was between 4 and 5 a.m. and the contractions were getting bad. Up until this point, I could just silently breathe through them, just deep breaths, like. But then at this point, I was starting to make noises. I was starting to kind of like moan through them, and it was involuntary. Like I was not trying to make noises. But like my body was just making noises involuntarily. I was kind of like moaning and like kind of like whimpering. And then there was a couple times where I was like on the verge of crying, but there weren't tears coming out. I just kind of sounded like I was. And Jonathan was just like watching me. I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to talk to him. They set up a cot they set up a cot for him next to my bed, so he was just laying on the cot just watching me, and I could barely even like look at him. I couldn't talk to anybody. I just needed to breathe through my contractions and do my thing. I don't know what time it was at this point, so this is still between the 4 a.m. and 6, because I delivered at 6:03 and we got to our room about 4 a.m. So after I went to the bathroom, nothing happened, but I was like, oh boy, like this is getting bad. But I was wondering if this means that he's coming, so like I had to poop, and it was getting so bad. The nurse came in, and then I think is when my yelling started during my contractions, where I was just like, I don't know how to explain it, because I never made those noises before, but it was like yelling, I would say. And up until this point, I'd been like so nice to the nurse and like had been able to talk to her, because I really had tolerated things very well up until this point, but it had gotten intense. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like what I was like, oh no, like I've made a horrible mistake. And I still didn't want an epidural at this point, because I wasn't super against the epidural all along, but they just kind of freak me out. I hate needles. I've seen them done before, and I've heard like, you know, people say they have back pain after headaches, or I've seen someone who, when they went to put in the epidural, cerebral spinal fluid shot out, so you know, they were like so looping out of it they couldn't even hold their baby. And I don't know, I'm just terrified of needles, so I just didn't want an epidural, and I wanted to do natural. There's nothing wrong with getting an epidural. It's just something that I wanted to do for some reason. I don't know, I just did. So I was against that. But then I had in my mind to do the nitrous oxide possibly, which is laughing gas. I've seen a patient use that and they kind of liked it, but at the same time then you're also loopy and out of it, and it doesn't take away the pain, it just distracts your mind. And maybe I would have liked that, but I didn't want to move. I didn't want to have to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to be, I was just in my head, in my zone, doing my thing, breathing and I guess screaming through my contractions. Not really screaming, like I said, more like moaning and weeping, like kind of like crying without tears through my contractions. And then, so the nurse came in and she asked if I wanted anything for pain. And I was like, I don't know, like, I was like, Tylenol. I was like, ibuprofen, and she was like, oh, those aren't gonna touch this. And then she offered fentanyl, but she said that like you can't be more than 5 centimeters because they go to the baby and make them loopy. And I was like, oh, like I don't want to do that to him. Like I don't want it to cross over to him and him have issues. But it was getting really bad at this point, and in my head I was like, oh no, like I messed up. I'm like, I have a long way to go, and this is getting bad. Like this is getting intolerable, and I'm not going to be able to handle much more pain than this. Not knowing that I was like very close to delivering, but anyway, so then I was like, maybe, like, I don't know. She's okay, well, I'll check you because you can't be more than, it was 5 or 6 centimeters to get the fentanyl. And so so when she checked me, she was like, okay, I don't feel anything. I'm gonna call my charge nurse. And so, and at this point, and then I think this is when I started, actually yelling, like no more whimpering through the contractions. I think this is when the yelling started. And then the charge nurse came in and she said she didn't feel anything either, like meaning that my cervix had completely thinned and that I was 10. She's like, I think you're 10. And then as the charge nurse checked me, my water broke. I literally felt I feel like I heard even a pop of my water breaking. And then the charge nurse is making calls. They're calling my midwife. And I was kind of connecting the dots in my head, but I was kind of just so beside myself with pain that I couldn't even think straight. But I was like kind of realizing that like, oh, it's like time to start pushing. And then I think at one point I yelled, I'm pushing. And they were like, okay, like, and then they're both like calling people in, getting the baby nurses in, probably calling like the on-call doctor or calling my midwife to see how close she was. And I heard them say like, she's on 22nd Avenue, like she's almost here. And because I think nobody expected things to go that fast, especially for a first-time mom. And when my midwife came in, and I started pushing for a while before the midwife came. Like, there was a bunch of people around my bed. Hard for me to remember all the details because I was in so much pain and my eyes were shut like the whole time, and I was just not even looking around. Like, at one point I really didn't want, like, I had planned on not wanting like all these extra people in the room, or like not wanting medical students or nursing students, and in the end I don't give a crap who's in there. I have no idea who is in there, and I really don't care. I was just like, I could not even think outside of myself. I was in so much pain. And at this point I was definitely screaming a lot. Jonathan, I might need you to sit next to me and explain more of the details because I don't really remember all of them.
I love you.
Can you explain how it was going? Okay, so at this point it was like, so I got to the room at 4 a.m. I delivered at 6, and you think I pushed for an hour?
Yeah.
Okay, so like 5 o'clock, and we're waiting for my midwife to come, and the nurses were making calls, more people were like coming around the bed, and at this point, did they tell me to start pushing, or did I just start?
Yeah, they said to.
They said start pushing?
Yeah.
Can you explain from here? Because I don't even know what was happening at this point.
She was pushing.
Were they telling
until
me?
the nurse came.
Were they, you mean the midwife?
Yeah.
They were all nurses.
Until the midwife came.
Okay, well, were they telling me to push?
Yeah.
Like push when I was contracting, or was like, I don't think I was.
You could already see his head, so they said to keep pushing.
You could see his head by the time the midwife got there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess
He was already out.
I guess he was already crowning by the time my midwife got there, because everything happened so quick. So I was definitely not pushing for an hour then.
His head was already there, you just had to push him the rest of the way. So
I guess he was crowning when the midwife came, and I heard the nurse say like, she was 5 the last time I checked her, like 5 centimeters, like meaning like, because it's kind of this, I've seen this happen a lot where the doctor, the midwives get mad at the nurses, like, how did this happen? Because the nurse, like, it's not supposed to be the nurses that deliver the baby, but it does happen sometimes. And they're like, she was a 5 last time I checked her, like, I called you as soon as I could. And anyway, so my midwife gowned up, and then she was talking to me, and then what, I guess they just told me to keep pushing when I was having contractions. But,
don't touch me.
Oh yeah, and then that's, I think, when I started screaming a lot, because my midwife, I don't know who was touching me, or maybe it was just like the ring of fire, if you've heard what that is. That's like when they're crowning and it's excruciating. And then at one point, and then I was screaming like, don't touch me, I didn't want her to touch me, and my midwife's like, I'm protecting your perineum. I'm assuming that she, like, usually I've seen deliveries where like they kind of put their fingers in there to like separate and try to prevent tearing from your vagina to your anus. And so I'm assuming that's what she was doing, or it could have just been like the ring of fire and the pain from his head that like felt like they were like doing something crazy. But I definitely kept screaming, don't touch me, don't touch me. I think I was being pretty nice for someone in labor. I kept saying please. Remember? I was like, please don't touch me. I kept saying please for everything. And I was like, I'm sorry, it just hurts so bad. I was like, just please don't touch me. And they're like, keep pushing, like he's crowning. They're like, do you want to see a mirror? Like, you can see his head. And I was like, I don't know. And I was like it might motivate you. And I was like, okay. And I looked in the mirror, and then I got angry. I was like, I thought he was further than that. Because I could literally, I feel like I could see like this much of his head. And I was like, that's all he is. And then at this point, the mirror did the opposite. The mirror actually made me so unmotivated, because I was like, okay, if this is how it feels when I can barely see the tip of his head, then then I'm not going to be able to do this. And so I think I definitely yelled at the nurse that brought the mirror, and I was like, you said he was almost out, like he's not almost out. And then I was like, I can't, like it hurts so bad. I kept saying, I don't want to push, it hurts so bad. And I was definitely like screaming like, ow. Was it scary?
Mm-hmm.
Were you scared for me?
Yeah.
I was scared. But and they kept saying you can do it just one more. They said I could do it in one push. Like, I feel like from the very beginning they said I could do it in one push, so he must have moved really fast. But I was like, I am pushing, and I was, but I just felt like I couldn't push any harder. I didn't want to. I mean, maybe I could have, but I didn't want to because it hurt so bad and I was scared, and it was just horrible pain. So he was definitely like, I was definitely in the ring of fire for way longer than I should have been. But the ring of fire was intense, and usually it is like quick at this point. Well, I guess, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I've only seen like, I don't know, maybe a dozen births or so. And every birth is so different. So everyone's different. But anyway, I did not want to push. I felt like I just couldn't. I kept telling them I can't, I don't want to. And one nurse, she was the charge nurse. Everybody else was actually really great. They're like, you can do it, you can do it. But this charge nurse, and I think actually this other nurse, was actually kind of really upsetting me. So they were like, well, you have no choice now. That's what she kept saying, Jonathan. She was like, well, you have no choice now. You have to. She was just like that. But there was one girl who might have been maybe a nursing student, I don't know, but she was so sweet. She's definitely my age, and she was like rubbing my thigh, and I actually liked that touch. That like felt so good.
She was definitely a student, yeah.
She must have been a student.
21.
She was rubbing my leg. She's like, you can do it, Jewel. Like, you're doing so. Oh my, I'm gonna cry thinking about it. She was so sweet.
That one girl, we love you.
I'm crying thinking about the girl. She was so sweet.
There were 3 or 4 girls, I love you. Emily was nice. Joanna was nice.
Yeah.
And then there was 2 younger girls. They looked similar.
That was postpartum. I don't think that was when I was pushing, but...
One girl that got you your appointment or whatever.
What do you mean?
I don't know. She asked about the...
Pediatrician?
Yeah, the one who kept asking about that over and over. She's really nice.
Oh.
And the other one that was...
But the girl that was at my bedside and I was pushing was so sweet. I don't know why I'm crying thinking about it. She was so nice. I hope that I was able to do that for somebody when I was in clinicals, because I tried to coach people, but she just kept, and like she like knew his name. I don't know. I guess we must have said his name at one point. She's like, Ezra's almost here. Like, we can see him.
The nice one looked exactly like this.
Yeah.
Just like her.
And she was so cute. She was definitely my age. And so sweet. She kept saying, like, you can do it, Jewel. Ezra's almost here. Everybody else was being kind of mean. Like, you need to push. So they were like, I'm sorry. They were like, I think they were getting annoyed with me because they were like, okay, you need to push. But she was just being so sweet.
Done it so fast.
I know.
It would have been the fastest birth they've ever
Well,
seen.
I say I know, but I don't know. I physically could not. And for a while, I definitely just gave up on pushing. I wouldn't push. And I was like, can I just go on my hands and knees and let him slip out? And they didn't want me to do that, which was kind of upsetting because that's what I wanted to do. Even though like I didn't want to move, I didn't want to be on my back because obviously that's counterproductive. That's not how gravity works. Your tailbone can't move, but they didn't want me to do that. So I was on my back and you're okay. Shh, it's okay. And so I was like, okay, well, can you guys just be patient with me? I remember saying that like 5 times. I was like, can you guys just be patient with me? Like it was very painful, but I was able to talk. So obviously it wasn't like the worst pain in the world. For everybody that's scared of childbirth, like, yes, it was excruciating.
You were talking the whole time.
But if I was able to talk the whole time and say please and be cordial. So don't be scared if you're pregnant right now. I hope that this isn't scary for you because it actually was a good experience. But anyway, I feel like I can't think straight. I obviously haven't slept much and I was so beside myself. I feel like I wasn't mentally there.
You haven't slept 4 hours in a row yet.
Yeah, I have not. So I feel like, and I was not mentally there during my delivery. I was physically there, not mentally there. But anyway, I was like, okay, I was like, can we just wait for contraction and then I'll push? Or I was like, or can I just let my body push for me? And they were like, okay, like when your body starts to push, because your body naturally does push. Like I think for a good amount of it, I was not pushing. I did not want to push. It hurt too bad, and my body just took over and started pushing. And they kept coaching me through it. Every time I tried to push, they were like, you can do it, just one more push. But I physically could not give it that huge big push that they needed to get him out. And finally And finally, at one point, I was like, okay, like I need to just get this over with, and I was able to find it in myself to give that big push, and I think I did it maybe a couple big pushes, and then next thing I knew, and then he slipped out, and he was on my chest, and Jonathan and I were like, I wasn't looking at him, I was just kind of like laying there, and he was on my chest, and I was holding him, and then at this point I was still yelling because I was like, don't touch me, because I could tell they were trying to touch me, and she was like, I'm just checking to see if you tore, and I was like, no, please, and they kept saying like, no, please don't touch me, like that hurts so bad. And then I was like, that just hurts so bad, like I can't do any more touching. And she was like, okay, you did tear, you're gonna need stitches. And I was like, no, please, no stitches. And she was obviously very confused. She was like, what do you mean, like you don't want me to stitch you up? And I was like, no, please don't. And she's like, I have to stitch you up, like you need stitches. And I was like, oh, like upset. And then I remember I kept saying, I'm sorry, but I don't want to scare you, because I was still screaming with him on my chest. I didn't want to scare him, but it was still so painful. And everyone kept touching me, and then they're like rubbing my stomach to try to have me deliver the placenta. And I did not want to deliver the placenta, but I'm not gonna lie, it was actually the most satisfying feeling. It's just like, it was like as big as him, Jonathan said, placenta's huge, and it just like slipped out. It was so slippery that it was actually kind of soothing.
It was at least this big.
Yeah.
It was at least that big.
But one thing that I will say is I hated, before the placenta came out, I hated the feeling of the cord.
Yeah, I could
see
the cord.
It was so uncomfortable for some reason.
It was all slimy, but it was like floppy, and it was this big. It was like
the placenta.
Yeah, it's like him's flattened down. It's the same size as him.
But delivering the placenta was very satisfying, I will say. But then the numbing shots for the stitches, that was horrible. And I think she gave me like 3 of them. And then I could still feel the stitches, so I was still screaming at this point, because I could feel her stitching me up, and
You didn't get nothing.
And stitches have always been my worst fear, like actually my whole life, and the fact that I was getting them down there was very upsetting. And then they had to rub my stomach, my fundus, in order to stop the bleeding, and that was horrible too. But I mean, once he was out, it was a lot better. I still just did not want to be touched, but I know they had to touch me. It's okay. I'd gotten there at 4 and then delivered at 6, so I really was not in there long, and it really was only bad, I would say, that last like hour and a half, so the last like however long of labor, and then the pushing was, before that it was definitely manageable. So really it was only those like hour and a half, 2 hours of like excruciating pain, and really the only part that was like truly excruciating was the ring of fire and like trying to push him out. That part was horrible. But like the whole, I mean, the fact that I was in labor like the whole day and didn't know it shows that it really wasn't that bad. It definitely got bad towards the end. Like I said, when I was standing at the desk trying to fill out the paperwork, that was rough. And then when we got to the labor room, that's when I did start like moaning and kind of crying through my contractions. So that was pretty bad. And that, at that point they're like every like minute for like 90 seconds each. So really you don't really have a break there. After that was so much better. When the stitches were done, everybody left the room, and it was really nice. They pretty much gave us alone time with just him on my chest. I forgot to say, Jonathan cut the umbilical cord. I did delayed cord clamping. I'm not sure how long it had been, maybe at least 5 minutes, or I think they just waited till it stopped like pulsating. But I did the delayed cord clamping, and then Jonathan got to cut the cord. And he laid on my chest. I really wanted to do skin to skin with Jonathan, but they said that like usually babies like now we're on the chest. So he laid on my chest for like an hour, and then right at 7, Jonathan had his shirt off and did skin to skin with him. And in the first 2 hours after you deliver, you need to have your uterus massaged every 15 minutes, which helps your uterus contract in order to stop the bleeding and kind of like shut, you could say. And those are painful. I definitely was like gripping the bed during those. And I forgot to say that, like, during my contractions, when they were getting bad at the end, what really helped me was, like, seriously really gripping the bed. Like, I had such a hold on the bed, and that was helping me. And I don't remember at what point we put him on my breast to breastfeed, but somewhere in there we did. And then at 8 we moved to postpartum room, which was nice. I forgot to mention this sooner, but I have a weird thing with myself where I cannot handle like anything medical. This was actually my first time getting an IV, and I was terrified for that. Like, I was in, active labor getting this IV, and I told her that I was scared of needles and that I was really nervous for this IV. And she was great. And I mean, I was in labor, so I was distracted. So it wasn't like terrible, but I have this weird thing where even getting pedicures is really not an enjoyable experience for me, because I don't like being touched like medically, if that makes sense. And when I'm getting a pedicure, those things can hurt, and when they bring out those little tools, I seriously, every time I start sweating, I get lightheaded. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And there too, I'm gripping the massage chair because I just don't like being touched medically. It makes me feel like I'm gonna pass out, and I have passed out many times. So this experience was something. It was horrible, and that's why I kept screaming, like, please don't touch me. I just did not want to be touched, but I had no choice. It's hard taking care of yourself. That's something I didn't think about, like, after delivery. Every time that I went to the bathroom after, I had to, like, take care of myself. I had to use my peri bottle and change out the little, like, mesh diaper underwear they give you, and the pads, and then, like, they gave me these like witch hazel pads, and like this like numbing spray or this cooling spray that you could spray on the pad before this you could spray on your pad. And so I had not, and like, you're bleeding so much, and so that I really hadn't been expecting. And getting up I felt so weak. Like, I felt like I had lost so much blood, and I couldn't stand straight for definitely at least the first 2 days after birth. I couldn't stand straight, and it just hurt so bad. And even now, like, I have gotten a lot more energy back, but even yesterday, just walking to like the fridge, I was out of breath. Like, I was not expecting this. I mean, the day that I was in labor, I went on a mile-and-a-half walk, like I said. I think it was almost 4 p.m. when I went on this walk, and I was fine. I had plenty of energy, but after delivery, I guess it took more out of me than I realized, because I had no energy at all, and just even standing, just like, I was out of breath. And I don't know if maybe my hemoglobin and hematocrit were low from all the blood loss, but I just did not feel good at all. And that was rough. So that's something that I hadn't been expecting. I'm not even close to even thinking about wanting to get pregnant again, going through pregnancy again, going through labor and delivery. Like, I am not at that point, but I think that I will do another natural labor again, because as rough as it was doable. And now that I've done it once, I know what to expect. The last 2 hours when I was in the labor and delivery room between 4 and 6 a.m. when it had gotten bad, I didn't know how much worse it was going to get, which was, I think, part of the problem and part of the mental block. I didn't know how much worse it was going to get, and then at the same time, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know how much time I had ahead of me. Like, I didn't know if I had hours and hours and hours left of that. I didn't know what it was going to be like, and when I was pushing, I seriously did not think I could do it, and I had such a mental block. Mentally, I did not feel like I could do it. Next time, like, now that I've done it before, I'll know, like, I can do it. And, like, I know I should have tried to use positive self-talk, but I seriously just kept thinking and saying, like, I can't push anymore, I can't do it, it hurts. He was a big boy, so any bigger, I don't know if I could do that, but I guess I wouldn't have a choice in the moment. Everybody's experience is different. Like, I don't even know if you can really compare childbirth, because, I mean, every single person is different. I'm sure that the pain is different for everybody who goes through it. I do think that what really helped is that I walked a lot during the last trimester of my pregnancy. Before then, my first 2 trimesters, I really didn't exercise as much as I would have liked because I was so nauseous and just I felt so horrible all the time. But my last trimester, I walked a ton. I also did a lot of hip opening stretches throughout my 3rd trimester, so I think that helped. And I tried to eat dates. I didn't eat them every day because I seriously hate the way they taste, but I did eat a decent amount of dates my last 4 weeks. I hope that this made sense. My brain is definitely so scrambled. The last time I slept was Thursday night and it's Tuesday right now because, you know, I didn't sleep the whole night that I labored and then gave birth. I didn't sleep that night, and then the next night I think I slept, my first night with him, I think I slept like 15 minutes, and then in the morning I slept like another hour and a half, but an hour 45 minutes in like 3 days isn't enough. And then since then I haven't gotten much sleep either. The past 2 mornings I've been able to sleep more because although I'm up with him most of the night, in the mornings Jonathan's been hanging out with him, and then I sleep. So the past couple of mornings I've had a good hour and a half of straight sleep, which has been nice. And actually last night he did so good. He slept for an hour and a half straight through. At one point I could not believe it when I looked at the clock and realized that he'd been sleeping for an hour and a half. Like, that's so good. They're just so in love, and I didn't know what to expect. I was worried that I might hate motherhood and hate taking care of someone, and I mean, it's only been a few days, but it brings me so much joy to take care of him. I love him so much. I think my heart grew 5 times. I want to take care of him. I want to do everything, and it has been a really smooth transition, honestly, so far. And he breastfeeds phenomenally. He is just amazing. We do have some moments where he doesn't want to latch, but overall he is so good, and he is just so sweet and so lovable. But I hope that this made sense because, like I said, I haven't had a lot of sleep, and so I feel like this was all over the place, and I seriously was not there mentally during my delivery. I might have been there physically, but mentally I was not there. I had my eyes shut for most of it. I was just in my zone, trying to breathe, trying to get through it. I'm sore. My breasts are very sore from breastfeeding, and then down there is very sore from pushing out this 8-pound, 4-ounce baby. Welcome to the world, Ezra Prince Snow. We love you so much.
He's perfect.
He's perfect. Hi there, handsome.
You already ate a meal?
Yeah, he already ate, and he loved it.
Already ate an hour-long meal?
He didn't want to let go of mommy.
He learned how in 2 seconds?
He learned how to breastfeed so quick. Yeah. He's so smart.
He started with his thumb?
Oh.
Just like this?
We did it. He was born at 6 a.m. I was able to go all natural. It was rough. The last couple of hours were horrible. I was yelling in the end. It was rough. I did not want to push. It hurt so bad. But we made it, and my sweet baby boy is here. July 6th, 2024.
I was drooling, boy. I was speaking good.
Our little bundle of joy. Hi there, cutie pie. Mama loves you. You're so cute. Hey, sleepy baby.
We have the same nose, ears. He's got Jules' chin. He's my twin.
This little boy is 14 years old now. It's first sunset. I was worried how to adjust, and I mean, it's only been a few days, but I am so happy. Today's Tuesday, and I gave birth Saturday morning, 6 a.m.